So we're continuing our sermon series called God's Greater Story, and we've been kind of traveling through the book of Romans, kind of seeing how we are part of God's greater story for our lives and the lives of our neighbors as well. We've been kind of going through, and I think there's two things that Paul is really kind of fleshing out for us. And the first one is an idea that we're really well aware of, and that is that God has made us righteous, and he's made us righteous by his salvation for us through the sacrifice and the resurrection of Jesus Christ our Lord. But the second part is a little bit more, different, and that's what to do about the problem of the law. What to do with that, because it's really difficult. And Paul, the author of Romans, is really kind of moving us around to kind of negotiate how we're supposed to deal with the law, right? And he does it in a few odd ways. Like one of the things he says about the law is, I do the things that I don't want to do. That, a few weeks back, we were defining that in the sermon as do this and you will live. And I think oftentimes we get caught up in that behavior of do this and you'll find life, that you'll find holiness, that you'll find righteousness. But that seems at odds with what was said about where our salvation and freedom actually comes from. And what's interesting is last week we saw that Paul is actually declaring something pretty important. He's saying that God has made us heirs of the kingdom of God, heirs of the kingdom of heaven. He has made you sons and daughters of himself, that you are princes and princesses in his kingdom. With that image in mind, I invite you to a hallway, but it's not just any hallway. This hallway is located in Florence, Italy. And this hallway is called the Galleria dell'Accademia. It's a hallway that's filled with images or carvings. And they're all done by a really famous artist that you've probably heard of him. His name is Michelangelo. And as we look in this hallway, I think it can cause us to have almost a visceral reaction of these carvings, of these images that are there. Because it's these guys or these figures that are strong, you can tell, but they almost look incomplete. And they look like they're stuck. In fact, what they call them there are the prisoners or the slaves. And I think that is something that can resonate deep inside of us. Have you ever felt like you've been stuck in stone? These images are so gracefully done and perfect, yet they looked so unfinished. What was interesting is that Michelangelo never viewed like that he was actually carving the stone. Instead, he said he was freeing the image that was already there. And there's some debate about what's going on with these, whether they're done works of art or not. But many artists believe that this is actually like a progression as we go through them, that he intentionally left them in this unfinished state, this kind of feeling of that they are trying to break free of the shackles that held them down, trying to break free of the stone that is all around them, but they just haven't done it yet. And that they are kind of stuck in the groaning of creation. And what's interesting is that when you look at them, the marble, it's still there and around them, that they're not fully broken free yet. It's like this now, not yet idea. And as we walk down that hallway, it gives us this sense of the future is here. You could see the strong arms. You could see a part of the image of what it's going to be. The future is here, but it's not yet. The beautiful images are trapped. The past is gone, but it's not completely out of sight yet. They still have the weight of the stone around them. have you ever felt like you were trapped in stone? I mean, one of the things we've been joking about with all this COVID stuff kind of going around is that there for a long time, now things are starting to open up, but there for a long time it felt like a weird parody of the Groundhog Day. Remember that movie with Bill Murray where he wakes up on Groundhog Day every morning, and at first it's like, oh, this is fun, I'm at home, I'm doing this and that, but then it becomes like a nightmare where you're just reliving the same thing time after time after time, and you can lose semblance of the days, and it can really make it seem like you're stuck in the stone. And then when you look, and we're actually opening up now, but cases are going up, and it can really feel like you're stuck. When you have stone all around you in your arm, you can't move, and you look around and it's just scary. I know me, I'm hyper vigilant of everyone around me when I go into a store. It's in trying to not touch things, trying not to touch my face, trying to not touch these things. I know last week's service, and I'm sure this one too, because you're watching it now, it was nerve-wracking for me, making sure everything was going well. And all this stuff with the COVID stuff can feel like it's stuck in a stone, but that's not the only places we're stuck in a stone. Like with all this too, it makes me think about like all the families that don't have good family lives. All the kids where school is the safe place for them and they had to spend all that time at home. How many domestic disturbances were aggravated because of all of this? How many of us just are going through those stuck moments? I mean that it makes me think of all these people that faced burnout in their lives, like when they would go around and their job was just awful, and they felt like, oh, maybe if I just work a little bit harder, then it will get better. They're stuck in the stone, right? Bad relationships, having to deal with your kids, like it's all stuff that you're stuck in the stone, and sometimes you don't know what to do, even if it's facing debt. Have you ever felt like just life was just stuck in the stone for you? So then, to the people who are complete yet feel incomplete, to those who know that your life is really good and is going well, but you still feel like you're stuck in stone, to those people that understand that they're saints and yet also sinners at the same time, like Paul is writing to those people in Romans. We have Romans chapter 8, beginning with the 22nd verse. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for the adoption as sons and the redemption of our bodies. I think we know where we're heading. As Christians, we know the story, we know what's happening and all that stuff. But we know that we are children of God, that we are made perfect in Jesus, and yet we still struggle. And yet, to use the language of Paul here, and yet we still groan. We feel the pain of our sin and death in the world. Sometimes it just doesn't seem right. We wait for the full redemption of our bodies. But while we wait, we groan as if we are trapped in stone. And I love Paul's imagery here because it's beautiful. Like groaning as in the pains of childbirth, because I haven't had any children, obviously, but I hear that it's incredibly painful. And it's not beautiful either. And I get that really from my dad telling me that I look like an alien from another world as I was being born, right? And yet when you talk to mothers, they know that it's all worth it. That there's the pain that's going through there, these groans of childbirth, but we're waiting for the redemption of our bodies. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck in stone and we're groaning in there and we're wondering how everything is going to be made right. We wonder if we're ever going to actually receive help. Are we going to be trapped in this stone forever? Paul says no. And we look at Romans chapter 8 again, beginning with the 26th verse. So here we go. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness. For we do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit himself intercedes with us with groanings too deep for words. I love that second, that we don't even know what to pray for sometimes. But the Spirit is giving us the things to say. And he who searches hearts knows what is in the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. So if we're in this world that says that you got to have everything just right in order to make it, which that feeling of having everything right can often lead to that feeling of being stuck in the stone, that is just, I can't do anything right, why do anything at all? In that world, we see the Spirit of God coming to us and giving us the hope that may be a hope that is so incomprehensible that it comes out as a groan. You see, the Spirit is leading you and he's guiding you. The Spirit is molding you and shaping you into what you are becoming. The Spirit is like Michelangelo carving out your true self out of the stone, leading you to the image that you were always supposed to be. We often wonder what our journey will look like. And I think that hallway and that exhibit we talked about, I think it helps us on our journey. So there these images are stuck in the stone, and yet they're not in some stationary room where they are trapped and they can't move at all there. They are in a hallway. They're in a hallway, and a hallway is one of greater journey, one where you move through there. And as you move through the hallway, you get to the end of it, and there lies one of Michelangelo's most famous statue. And it's not like any other. It's taller. You could say it's richer, it's stronger, and it's completely free of the stone. Some may dare say that it is finished. It's a statue of David. And when you say Michelangelo's David, immediately it goes to your head. You can picture it in your mind's eye, right? You can just see it. And that statue is decidedly not a prisoner. It's not slouched down into struggle, but it's standing tall, and it's no longer stuck in stone. It is free, and his image is perfect. David's image is beautiful. And we can see that there's beauty as he's completely free of stone and everything that hindered. And the imagery that I love of this is that Jesus is in the line of David, that he is the new David, right? He is the Messiah that came in David's line, and he is decidedly not stuck in stone. But what's beautiful for all of us that struggle with how we can be stuck in the stone of the world around us, groaning in the pains of childbirth, and we can see that there's a hallway that we're supposed to move down there, but we just feel like we're stuck and we'll never get to that David likeness. Jesus came to us That it wasn't just, he's not just some Godhead that says, oh, you're just free now, like it meant nothing, right? But he came into our struggle and felt our pain and was stuck in the stone himself. I mean, think about when he was on earth, how he felt pain and hurt. He wept. Before he died on the cross, it says that he cried tears that were like drops of blood, just anguish, right? He took all of this and he went to the cross feeling all the great weight and the gravity and the pain of our sinfulness and hurt, and he took it on. But when he rose again, he broke free from the stone. That he was freed, and he's just like that image of David where he's taller, richer, better, right? He's free from the stone and everything that hinders him. And what's beautiful is that he then sends the Spirit on to us, that we would not be stuck in the stone forever, but he is come to us and he's working on us, freeing us from all the things that hinder us, that one day we may be able to stand upright and see the world for what it truly is, and we can see our image fully. The Spirit is working on each one of us. There's going to be pains, there's going to be groans, we're going to feel like we're stuck sometimes, but we're moving down the hallway as the Spirit of God is freeing us to stand us up, just like David and just like Christ. And I think that's good news. And we'll end right there.